Hey everyone, Dan here. Today we're going to take a look at Cleveland Cliffs, both at the macro chart and the micro chart to see if there might be kind of a dip buying opportunity after a recent cool off, or just overall, what it might look like for longer term and shorter term trade opportunities. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And let's jump right in. So Cleveland Cliffs, because it is, at least to my mind, not obvious from their name. The industry that they're in is in basic materials, mineral resources, metals and mining, steel in particular. So they're a producer of iron ore and steel products. Okay, so that's sort of like the area that you'd be delving into. Some of this stuff has come up recently because of the cooling off in the tech and especially the growth sector. And some folks have been sort of like hedging some of those plays with these like more industrial type of stocks, because there's been sort of so much talk about inflation and so much talk about infrastructure being a key component of this administration. So my understanding is that's why these have become a little bit more popular in recent months. But here's the 2-hour, 3-month chart. So let's start here and just sort of like get a lay of the land, see what sort of like trends we're in. Oops, hit the wrong button there. It's a good start. I'm very tired today, so please be a little bit patient with me, with my words and with my capabilities this evening, but I promise the analysis will be as solid as any of the others are, so for whatever that's worth. But the brain function might be a little bit slower. Okay, so it's been in this nice channel for most of these 3 months, since late February. And obviously right now it's getting into potential dip buy opportunity, because if you recall, if you haven't heard me say this 1,000 times already, the way that I like to play channels is I dip buy the bottom of the channel, assuming that it will hold it, or I sort of like wait to confirm that it's going to hold it, like you would have seen here. And then I use that dip buy to take my profit at the top of the channel. So you could have ridden this one up from about 17 bucks at the end of April and sold out at about 22 bucks just about 2 weeks later. So, or a week and a half later even. And so that's a pretty good percentage gain on what I consider to be one of the more consistent and reliable setups, which is a channel. The one thing to keep in mind, well, one of the things to keep in mind is that channels will ultimately always break. No channel is held indefinitely, and so at some point you will expect a potential dip buy at the bottom of the channel, and it will fall through it and it won't come back into it. Same thing, could potentially happen on the upside, which you'd probably rejoice about, but it could blow through this upper bound and not come back down, and sort of just like some major catalyst puts it at a new floor at say $30, right? So that would sort of like stretch outside of the bounds of this channel, but for all intents and purposes, for most typical trading days, weeks, months, this is going to be your friend. So what I'm going to be looking for is, one of two things. Either this already is in really great dip buy territory, or there's really good dip buy potential coming up in the coming days, and that would be right about in this box here, stretching us down. I wouldn't specifically watch these prices, but I'm just putting this box to mean the bottom of the channel. And just know that sometimes they can fall out of the bottom of the channel and then very quickly get itself back in, or start following the bottom bound of the channel back up and then pop itself back in. So that to me is still considered like a strong channel play if it does that. If it falls out of the channel and starts going sideways or slightly down, then to me, with the amount of distance or real estate in between the price action and the bottom bar of the channel constantly increasing, I would consider that a broken channel and then just shelve that play for the time being if that channel was my main sort of like source of buying opportunity. So I'm going to be looking for bottom of the channel dip buy opportunity. That said, a lot of stocks depending on how strong my conviction is in them, I will consider a dip by the bottom half of the channel. So you can't always catch everything exact. So if it's not bouncing off the bottom of the channel in order to start a position, that's fine. It's clearly toward the bottom half of the channel right now, and has been in a nice uptrend, so could start a recovery sooner than later. So so sort of like keep that in mind as well. For some potential like price areas to look for that clearly look like they're impactful, this one right now, basically where it's at, this 1952 zone, resistance, resistance, support, and now it's sort of like trying to hold that as support again. Where it could come down to, it would be like this area here. So I'd be sort of interested to see if it comes down to about here. So that's where it started, this big run up. It was support over here. It was resistance over here. It was support for a while here. I'd be really interested to see if it fell out of the channel and came down to high 17s, if that gave it a quick boost back up into the channel. So that would be my next potential catch zone. But I wouldn't set particularly like a cautionary or a stop loss on this. I would basically play the channel, and if it started to fall out of the channel and then increase in distance from the channel, then that would be kind of my cut loss price point, which is just a moving target because the channel is moving upward as time goes on. The 1708, would be something to look for, just to sort of like keep in the back of your mind. Ton of resistance here, used the area, had resistance here, but then used it to jump up here. Support here, and then support here as well. So if it does fall through and fall out, I would look for it to maybe get caught there at 1708 and then start doing something interesting again to play off of. So that's where I see the chart. So let's pop over to the MAs. Get rid of these just so they don't clog up our screen. And then look at the RSI real quick. RSI is in a good position. It's below the midpoint, which is 50, and so there could be some really good buying power coming in. This has done a really good job recently of like getting into oversold territory and then running up to overbought territory and then doing that again and again. So you'll see it did it here too, and these are like some really nice bumps from oversold to overbought. So it looks like in general, if it gets to oversold, that is like a really excellent opportunity, because historically speaking, from the like empirical evidence that we have, it shows that it has a nice move to overbought after that, and that the price change during that time, or the percentage price gain that you would have, is, in my opinion, significant, especially for the short period of time in which you would have to hold the stock. So that would be something strong to look at, in my opinion. Also the MACD, a couple of things, like the bearish momentum kind of holding up there after gaining a little steam from here, but it did fall down from being pretty high in the positive territory. So now it's in the negative territory below the baseline, potentially starting a bullish crossover, and has a lot of room to run up. So I actually think, like looking at this, if I'm basing my entry points on the 2-hour charts, I'm going to look for bottom of the channel dip buy that corresponds with oversold territory. That would be like a primo potential entry point, in my opinion. Sort of like one of those short of the other one, probably still worth at least starting a position for a bottom of the channel or an oversold. Even if the other piece of that puzzle is not in play, it might sort of like come into play, and then leaving a little bit of room to increase the position if that comes to fruition could prove useful. All right, that is sort of the longer term chart. If you're doing some like shorter swing trades or day trading on Cleveland Cliffs, this obviously looks completely different. So this is the recent breath that it has taken. The reason that I wanted to take a look at it, because it ran up pretty strongly and then cooled off, and I thought, okay, this could be a really good opportunity to catch a dip because there's a lot of speculation around this industry and these types of stocks. They are going to have a really strong lead up, at least into summer, if not a strong summer itself. So it's working itself toward the top of this down channel. And so the first thing you'd want to see would be for it to break out of the down channel on the short term side of things and establish some price strength. Or you could take a chance, if it is toward the top of a down channel, that it may break out and just sort of like set very quick, tight stop losses there. Because if it doesn't and it gets pushed down, you would just know that it's probably going to come pretty far down, and increase your losses along the way. For some of those price targets, I would look at if it ends up toward the top and it can't hold, and it gets pushed down further, probably right around this price. If it gets out and can establish something at like 1988 in the near future, that could be a really good support level. And then this one here in 1944 would be one that I would look at in order for it to hold and potentially have some strength to push off of. And then if not, 1916 is what I would look for after that. On the upside, I could see sort of like some trimming or some start of profit taking closer to $21. And again, these are like for short-term trades. Remember this, I'm not talking about holding this for like months and weeks. And then, about 30 cents later, and then something up around here as you get into the higher half of the 21s. So those are my short-term targets. Looking at the indicators, RSI is just over the mid-range, so nothing super, nothing quite as telling on this shorter-term RSI as we saw on the 2-hour. So to me, it's not looking to honestly be that useful. It does some nice ranging in here, but the moves are pretty small in comparison. On the MACD side of things, the bearish momentum definitely dying down, flattening out. So I would look for that to continue, like this trend of like low, slightly higher low, and now flattening out. And then the bullish momentum in between those has consistently been getting stronger, higher and wider in some of these cases. And so I'd look for a nice crossover here. It's sitting right at the baseline, so it does have enough, potential for a really strong upswing. That wouldn't be sort of like a ludicrous thing to be watching for. All right, well, hopefully some of this was helpful to you. Good luck if you're in Cleveland Cliffs or if you decide to take a position. To be honest, I'm probably going to be a little bit more closely watching that 2-hour chart than this 5-day. I much prefer that setup versus this one. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't maybe turn that into a shorter term position, but just use the longer term chart in order to get myself an entry point. It would just sort of like depend how it unfolds at the time. Well, good luck this week. Obviously, I'll be putting out a video every day, so keep yourselves aware of those by following me on Twitter, or my favorite thing you could do would be to subscribe here, and then I guess I'm also supposed to say that you could hit that notification bell in order to make sure that you see all the videos that are posted. All right, well, have a good one, and I will see you in the next video.